All right, ladies and gents, welcome. And I hope we are paying attention. We've just got a warning out from the FBI director. Let's go straight over to the shared screen because I've also pulled up one of the latest articles from our favorite three-letter organization, the World Economic Forum. They've got a lot to say at the moment. So let's have a look here, shall we, and see what's going on. FBI chief warns of unprecedented rise in security threats. Here we go. The US is facing an unprecedented confluence of security threats, according to the FBI director, Christopher Wray, who said the agency is deeply concerned about the simultaneous rise in terrorism, cybercrime, foreign election interference, and espionage, that's ironic, and espionage activities by adversarial powers. He said this: he's hard-pressed to think of a time in his career where so many different kinds of threats are all elevated at once. So I think we need to pay attention to this then. I worry about the combination of many threats being elevated at once with the challenges facing the men and women in law enforcement more generally. Now, this is very interesting. He talked about this statistic, which I was very surprised by. He said that officers are being killed in the line of duty in the US at a rate of about 1 every 5 days. That is unprecedented. That is unheard of. I would not want to be in law enforcement in the US if that is the rate. It's pretty shocking. He declined to go into detail about any specific investigation or threat, but noted that the FBI is concerned about Chinese espionage and intellectual property theft, foreign election interference, AI-enabled threats, and terrorism. Now, I was reading through the WEF website. I know you love it when I review all of this stuff, so I thought I'd bring this one to your attention. Just came out this week. 4 global risks to look at for the in the post-pandemic era, they are calling it. But before I forget, by the way, I should have said this at the start. On tomorrow, I'll be releasing module 13 and 14 of the Cash Flow Mastery course. So for those of you wondering when the next 2 modules are coming out, it is 18 videos in module 13, 17 videos in module 14. So it's going to be massive. Definitely put aside a couple of hours this weekend to actually get through it. So we've got 3 more modules after that, and then the course is done, and it's going up to the full price after. So, okay, let me get back to this then. So this is what the WHO said then. Okay, other threats have escalated. More variants. This doesn't make any sense, first and foremost. So they're saying since COVID, more threats of more variants have actually come about. That isn't how these viruses work. They usually get lesser with more variants, not stronger. So I'm not sure what they're talking about there. If you're an immunologist, please drop a comment. Although I think everyone's an immunologist these days. The other thing they said was global wars. Yep, definitely. That's a big risk. Climate events, tech challenges, terrorist activity on Western soil. So I'd like to know what they mean more about this. And even a new public health emergency called Mpox. I think I've got to get into this. I've got to really tell you about this on potentially tomorrow or next week. Because remember I talked about this when it was called monkeypox. You remember that? I did a big video on it and I went into detail. The video got taken down straight away because I gave you the facts. I went very specific on who was affected, what was going on with it, and obviously it's not politically correct to talk about such things. So now it's been rebranded as Mpox. So I definitely got to get into that because I've got a lot of theories around what's going on there. But we'll save that for another day. The global risk trends to watch this decade then. What are they saying? What are the WEF saying? The biggest risk trends you need to be aware of. Power disperses in a post-superpower era. So who is the superpower? Well, that is the USA. That is obviously who they're talking about. So where is the power going to disperse to? Well, they don't actually say specifically, but they're saying the global south is moving away from trading in the US dollar, even attempting a new blockchain payment system, and tech firms and leaders are driving the change largely unchecked. Frankly, we've noted this trend before, but this may be the official start of a post-superpower era. This is the US they're talking about, by the way, shaped increasingly and unpredictably by other players regardless of the outcome of the US election. I love it when they put these links in, because the first thing I do is I click them to see what their bias is. And this was the article that came up. Donald Trump poses the biggest danger to the world in 2024. And the article talks about if he wins, oh, it's all out war, and all these articles saying this. Actually, what baffles me about it doesn't baffle me because I know it's biased media, it's obvious, but they're talking about if Trump wins, the world will be at war and all these global wars, World War III and everything else. If you actually look, I'm very unbiased on Republican, Democrats and everything going on because I'm not American. Obviously, I have my views and I share them with you, but facts are facts. The articles say the opposite of what is true. They're saying that under Trump there was more wars than ever. That's not true. Look, love him or hate him, I know some of you like him, some of you don't. That is not true. There weren't more wars than ever. There was actually probably, if you look at the stats around, it's probably less wars, not more wars. You look under the current administration, what have we got? We've got Russia, Ukraine, we've got Israel, Hamas, we've got China ramping up stuff around Taiwan. There's loads of stuff going on. So the whole bias with the media is pretty outrageous, especially the WEF. But I won't get too much into that. I know some of you won't agree with my comments, but that is my view on it. Number two, a big election year won't stop our recurrent crisis of political legitimacy. Everyone has rightly noted how 2024 is the biggest election year in history, with around half the world going to the polls. That is true, that's correct. This, of course, could still be complicated by AI disinformation, cyber threats, or simply accusations of rigging, as already seen in countries like Bangladesh, Venezuela, and the US. I'm surprised they put the US on there, but okay. A more complex global mental health crisis. So we're seeing this a lot. They keep talking about the mental health crisis, and now they're saying it's going global. Now, you look at what they say are the reasons for it, and it's actually the opposite. So they're saying the pandemic was the greatest threat to mental health since the Second World War. Actually, that's not true. That should say the lockdowns were the greatest threat to mental health because people were isolated, and human beings we're pack creatures. We're not designed to be locked down on our own. Many of us are still struggling to catch up in our personal and professional lives, yet other challenges to post-pandemic health are increasing. And I had to highlight this. They're saying that mental health is increasing thanks to climate change and AI. What? I know, I'm scratching my head as well. Therapists say climate change is generating a new type of anxiety, leading to a sense of alienation that makes it hard to function, and even, I can't say this word, yes, the eco-anxiety, they're calling it, is likely to escalate as governments fail to transition away from fossil fuels. So expect more extreme climate events that further exacerbate our mental health, especially for growing numbers of climate refugees. Second, AI is being imposed on us whether we like it or not. And also there is now a class who feel left behind. And it's so interesting this has just come out because I talked about this in my new course and I did it in 2 or 3 modules and I explained in detail. Actually, let me just mention this because some of you won't have got to the bonus module yet. So it sort of talks about how there's this class of people that are going to get absolutely wiped out, just completely decimated by the AI and what's coming. And I'll show you some of the forecasts they've made as well. But it's also that I sort of talked in the bonus module about how there's a massive opportunity coming, and it shows you all the different transitions through history, and it sort of goes into detail with examples and shows what the people did and how they did really well from it, and those who didn't do any changes and how they got absolutely destroyed by it. So all that's coming. I think that's module 16. But it does go into it. But this is going to be a massive opportunity for people. All this sort of negative news around AI. Yeah, there is negative news. It's going to wipe out a lot of jobs. But there's also a lot of potential as well. There's a lot of opportunity there. If you actually, you don't even need to be a tech guru or a genius. I'm definitely not. And you can definitely do well from it. So this is what the AI expert has just said to the WEF. He said that his past prediction is still accurate, forecasting that 50% of jobs will be wiped away by 2027. Now, I think that's a little bit extreme of a forecast, 50% of jobs. But again, we keep seeing this key year 2027. I definitely think it's going to wipe out a lot of jobs, maybe 300 million jobs on average. But I don't think it's going to be 50%. That'll be billions of jobs around the world. We've also had this come out then. Hackers uncover critical voting machine flaws before the key election. Now, there's something called DEF CON that happens every year. And they do this sort of, they try and find risks in different areas. So this time they looked for the US election. And it said, despite efforts by top hackers to unearth security flaws, there's little hope for implementing these fixes before election day. This is one of the world's largest hacking convention, and they looked on the voting machines for weaknesses. This year saw them attempting to breach voting systems and election equipment to simulate attacks, hoping to identify flaws vulnerable to exploitation by malicious actors. So they found all of these flaws, but now there's just not enough time to actually deal with it. So good luck if you're in the US this year. Another election-based story then. The Supreme Court has allowed Arizona to require proof of citizenship. I mean, surely this is obvious. Obviously, you need proof of citizenship. I just can't believe this. For state votes, but not congressional or presidential. That is absolutely unbelievable. It's unbelievable what happens in the US, that you don't need any ID to actually vote. And I was reading through this article to understand, why is it that way in the US? And they said that it's due to discrimination. Please drop a comment if you're in the US, because I find this absolutely absurd. They said that some people may not, you've got to read these reasons. Said some people might be afraid to show their picture. It said some people may have mental health issues. Some people, there was all these reasons, and I was like, yeah, okay. It's probably because they've got a lot of people on the voter rolls that are not legally in the US, and that's what kind of the article goes into as well, explains a lot of this. But yeah, it's unbelievable. Good luck is all I can say with all this stuff going on. And they said here, over 40,000 people registered to vote in Arizona for the federal election without providing proof of citizenship. In 2020, Biden narrowly defeated Trump in Arizona by just over 10,000 votes. Well, okay, we'll say no more on that. Over to the UK then, there's a crackdown on racist hate speech. Apparently, this is the United Nations telling the UK that they have to do this. They have to comply. They've urged them to take action in this new report published on Friday. And obviously, no one wants hate speech, of course, but you've got to read into this and see there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. Where is it? This is really interesting. Okay, they focused heavily on far-right and white supremacist groups. That is really, if you read the full report, there's no one else that they've targeted in here. No one else at all. It's just what they're calling far-right. And here's the interesting thing. This was done, I've got to show you this. Here it is. This evidence was considered by the committee. It was collected before the general election and the riots. Hold on. It was collected before. So how did they know that all this stuff was... It doesn't make any sense that they had this report compiled against all this extremism, far-right extremism, before the riots took place, huh? I know, it makes no sense. So they got a crystal ball. So this was a 4-year review, they said, and it's a requirement for countries signed on to international conventions that they have to do what the UN says. They recommended the UK prevents all of this by encouraging reporting to police, so people reporting others to police, prosecuting perpetrators, strengthening measures to combat hate speech on social media, among other measures. Come on. Are we expected to believe that what's happened now then? Okay, yeah. I have to be careful what I say here. They said that Scotland's done very well because they brought in a hate crime strategy. Wales introduced an action plan to eliminate racism. Oh yeah, we talked about that yesterday. This is the £130,000 that was donated to libraries to make sure they did a study to make sure that if there was any links to anything at all untowards in any of those buildings, that they could not be used, these buildings, for any meetings and other things. It's all getting very, very weird. We talked about this on the Walk and Talk yesterday. And who are they concerned about? The global body remain concerned about the level of hate crimes and xenophobic speech targeting. And then here's all the list. I'm not going to read them all out because the video will just get censored. But you can see the whole list of people here. There's nothing about British people or British Asian people or all the British, who else do we have? Caribbean people who have been here 2-3 generations. It's all about this group here. But actually, it goes both ways, but it doesn't seem to be focusing on that. Very quickly then, in fact, we'll probably talk about this another day, but Russia's just summoned the US envoy over the presence of American mercenaries, CNN crew in Kursk as well. So Russia has said that they've been using American mercenaries, the US mercenaries, and which was denied. But the first thing I did was I went on to the FO, I think they're called FOB, forward observations, I think they're called. First thing I did, I went on to all their social media. It says, the boys in Kursk. Look, this is a legit account, 253,000 followers. You can see it here. That is their account. The boys in Kursk. I mean, it's baffling that this is going on and they're denying it. That CNN was there, they did a report on the ground, and then they've got US mercenaries in Kursk, and the US denied. Sorry? They denied it. I don't know, I'm living in the twilight zone. I think I'll leave it there for today because it's absolutely baffling. The news gets more crazy every single day. I just don't even... I'm going to keep bringing it to you every day, but just bear in mind, we're living in madness now. Everything that's true is false. Everything that's false is true. Everything you can see with your own eyes, they deny, and everything you sort of suspect. Anyway, bye. That's it for today. Take care. God bless.